So I try to wait until we have enough people in the room, which is why sometimes it doesn't start right at 9. I'm actually sitting here at the desk saying, come on, everybody, get in here so we can get going. But, you know, it's also 4th of July weekend. Oh, I have my youngest student ever sitting there, I can see. And so, you know, if we do start a few minutes late, I always run late too. But the idea is I'm trying to get enough people in the room so that people aren't missing things in the beginning. I just want everybody to, and you know, depending on where we are in the world, some people, this class starts at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I want to be somewhat considerate. For me, it's a convenient 9 o'clock, but for other people, there may be nothing convenient about it. Okay. So let me see here. We're going to start. I'm going to go to my screen and we're going to be doing upper arms and upper legs today. So I'm going to be showing you how to connect those things to the body. And I like to do the arms and legs together because arms and legs are basically the same limb, slightly modified for different purposes. So you may have, you know, the video, by the way, it was sort of like an epic 6-hour critique. I don't do that every week. But the first week, I like to make sure everybody's on board. So I take a lot of time. And so it's divided up over 4 separate videos. So the people who post early will tend to be in the earlier videos, and the people who post later tend to be in the later videos because it's sort of arranged by, you know, when you get in. Okay. And very, very good work. I was impressed by everything. So again, with some people who are more advanced, what I do is I talk about how we can take, say, your knowledge of figure construction and start designing the figure a little differently. So like using arcs and curves and balancing arcs and straights to get more sort of dynamic action out of it. And, you know, as I get to people who are a little more basic, I'm reinforcing how to use cylinders, how to use all these basic shapes to get things going. The main thing we work with in figure drawing is cylinders and squares. Again, squares, if you draw a square for a knee, I find that destructive. It sort of just tells everybody you don't know what you're doing. So you only draw the part of the object that is needed. And in a sense, you, in quotes, see the part of the object that is not needed. So you're gonna draw the points of reference that are needed, and then you sort of skip the other stuff as much as you can, okay? So I'm gonna go to my screen here. Here's the chat, let me see. Okay, that's Sang-Ah. Sang-Ah is the one who really, she is the puppet master. I am the puppet. See, for example, she has disabled my screen, so I can't share my screen. So,
wait a second. Let me
you know, she's decided I haven't given you enough explanation yet, so I can't go to my screen.
Now you are.
All right, here we go. Now I can go to my screen. Let's see.
Yes.
Okay, so everybody can see my cursor moving around on my screen here. Okay, good. All right. So a little bit of review. I like to review. I keep it fairly quick, but I like to review things. So what we talked about last week was simple, let's see, review. We're going to talk about 3 stages of drawing, a third, and a third. Okay, so simple shape and construction. Simple shape is essentially flat, like this, okay? Construction is when I start coming in and doing things like this to make the figure start to come together. Now I'm constructing, see? I'm not really lighting. So I'm not going in there and trying to shade things in. I'm simply using construction. And this is, for some people, I would say, don't even worry about lighting because you don't know how to light. I'm going to show you how to light. So, you know, at the moment, we are doing linear drawings. And we're going to be discussing the issues having to do with linear drawings. So if I come in here, you can sort of see what I'm talking about, okay? And then here we would have the fat pads coming off the back, you see. Here we have the latissimus pulling up into the back. Here we have the trapezius. I am constructing. And what I'm doing is I'm working from big shapes to smaller shapes continually. And that's how we do this. We just work from big to small. Here is the butterfly shape that's on the rear end here, okay? And then here we're going to start putting the calf in. And some of you saw you know, coming over in here, yesterday I was talking about feet, and I'll get into some feet today too, but one thing that's really critical that I didn't put into the review, because I always remember what I forgot when I'm demoing, okay, is this. We have different ways of viewing things. And if I look at a box from the end, that's a perfectly constructed, perfectly drawn box in perspective, except we're looking at the end of it. Okay, so it's going to look flat anyway. If I come in here, here is my box projecting forward. Now, you'll notice that number 1 box looks a little bit behind number 2 box. Okay, number 3 box, which has 3 shapes on it. So 1 is weaker than 1, 2. And number 3 is projecting even more forward than number 2. So this is 1, 2, 3. If I'm going to stack and organize things, and I want it to feel like depth without having to go into a lot of work, what I'll do is have number 1 box in the back. And then number 2 box, and by the way, since it's flat at the top like that, that's eye level, is here. And then number 3 box, I can see the top of the box, which means I'm looking down at it, see? Going like this. Okay, so 1 wants to be behind 1, 2. 1, 2 wants to be behind 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's like a natural order of things. Okay, so if I reverse it, then what I'm doing is putting dimensional pressure on a flat shape in the front, and I'm going to create a feeling of claustrophobia. So to reverse it is not incorrect. It simply produces the opposite effect. You see what I mean? So this creates a natural feeling of distance and space. If I reverse it, it creates a natural feeling of claustrophobia. It's sort of as if I'm pressed against the glass and everything is pushing me against the glass. When I say pressed against the glass, we're thinking of a piece of glass on the front of the picture, and I'm kind of pressed against it like this. All right. So when we do that, we're starting to use the tools of drawing as they would apply to literally everything. So simple shape and construction. Drawing is filling it in. But I haven't got an eye path in there. I haven't shown, I might in my head have an idea of how my eye path is going to work, but I haven't put the eye path in any kind of obvious in any kind of obvious way into the drawing yet. I'm really just sort of resolving drawing issues in accordance to the style that I'm working in. So if you're designing, for example, you know, for a game design, and you're working on one game, you're still going to use a third, a third, and a third. You're just going to use the drawing stage to develop the style and the direction of that game. You then finish that game, go to a new game, you still use a third, a third, and a third. Simple shape and construction frequently has very little to do with style other than the shape language, which is, you know, 80% of style. And then filling it in is how do we handle light, how do we handle tone, how do we handle texture in this given style, all right? And then when we're finishing, that's when we're sort of deciding how the eye path is going to pass over the form to the focal point. And I'll talk about that a little bit today too. Accenting. Accenting is finishing it. Accenting is creating the eye path to the focal point and making it look cool. Okay? And we've agreed that no one wants their drawing to be boring. Everybody wants their drawing to be interesting and worth looking at. In other words, it has to attract the eye so you can communicate your message. So making the drawing look cool is not some cheesy commercial thing. It's what everybody does. They just call it by different names. Okay, so I'm referring to this thing, you know, basically in a nice colloquial way so that everybody gets what I'm talking about. But in the fine art program, we would call it the realization of your concept. Maybe we'd talk in Latin. I don't know. I've forgotten. Okay, so that's the deal. Then we get into line, 1. Okay, remember, we
Well,
have, yes,
before you get to, there's a question
okay.
regarding simple shape and constructions. Is it okay to get the simple shape of all parts first and then add the construction second, or should they
Yes.
get the simple shape and construction for each part before moving to the next part?
Oh, you could do the whole thing simple shape first and then build the construction on top of it. You know, I tend to start, people start at different places. I know some people who start their figure drawings with the head, and they think once the head works, then I'll add the body. And, you know, you don't waste your time if the head doesn't work. The tendency there is to have the head be too big, though. So the problem with drawing the head first is you end up with something that kind of looks like this. Okay? So you'll see it. If you see heads that are consistently, you see it a lot on academic drawings where the head just, isn't that head a little too big? And you sort of notice that. And so a lot of that is because they've drawn the head first and then they add the body to it. Personally, some people will say, put a big action line in there. And, you know, in the beginning, I guess that's helpful. Perhaps. I don't even know that that's true. I don't do that myself. So if you want to know what I do, I start with the torso. And when I start with the torso, I start with the simple side first. Then I say, what's the angle of the shoulder? And I basically go through and I start constructing like this. Okay, so I'm doing a little bit of both at the same time, see? And when I do that, I'm getting a feel for it. That's really what I'm doing, is I'm getting a feel for it. The center line is very specific, see? And here, this is my side line. That's my 3-finger gap. I come up in here, there's my lowest attached rib. There it is over there. Here's the stomach coming in on the far side. You see how easy this is? Then I come in, this comes up to here. I cut off that far corner a little bit because I'm going to see 2 sides of the rib cage, and I can only see those 2 sides here. I can't see the 2 sides on the other side. There's the center line. So here is the side of the body. Here is the front of the body. Here is the side of, oops. Here is the side of the body. Here is the front of the body. Okay? So let me just come up here, multiply this, and make that easy for people to see going forward. Okay? So this is going to get to be important once we start lighting, which is another reason why I like to do, you know, bodies and arms and legs that have a front and a side. So I come in there, and then what will happen is right in here, see, this is the side of the stomach that will come in like this. There's the sheath of the rectus abdominis. It'll be over here. We might get things in here. So as you see, I can sort of very quickly put that figure together. And today what I'm going to talk about is attaching the upper arms and the upper legs. So we're now going to be pulling the, you know, the limbs, the upper part of the limbs out from the torso. And I'm also going to show you how joints work. So joint working is another thing. Okay? And then, you know, I will tend to go in and construct the next thing. So I'll come in here and say, here's the pubic bone. Okay? Wait 1 second here. Here's the pubic bone. Here is the right at the base of the 3-finger gap. And I come out like this and I put in what I call the skinny leg. And the skinny leg here comes out to the knee. The knee is in here. And the whole thing is about 1.5 heads. Okay? Then when I come in here, here are the knee bones right in here. And I'm going to have the patella, which is your knee cap, right here. Then the calf comes out down here. Now, what you're going to find is this right here and the joint are almost the same width. And one of the things I saw in people's drawings was they would go like this. Okay? And so they're over exaggerating the difference between here and here. And so with this, we come in here and then I come down. Lower leg is shorter than the upper leg. And the most important thing to remember is that the calf only comes halfway down here, and then the soleus comes down to there. All right? So here, I bring this down, and I'm going to go like this, see? Now, I like to do this. Cylinders, you know, here's a cylinder, a bumpy one. Let me put on my glove. The screen is grabbing my hand. And so I have a bumpy cylinder. Doesn't matter, legs are bumpy. And but I can't really tell which direction the leg's going if I have that cylinder. But if I do this, I can say, oh, I see, the bottom of the leg is going like this. You see what I mean? So if I draw my cylinder here, again, I don't have an idea of where that leg is going. But if I do this, this is interesting. See, this will come like this. And then here is the bottom of the leg going to the other side, in which case there is the front. And I can see the calf, which is a cylinder, coming out underneath the leg, see? So now I'm looking up and underneath the leg like this. See what I'm talking about? Okay. Now, this is more important than the anatomy, frankly. If you can understand these things, character designers, a lot of people working in, you know, cartoons, the fields that my students tend to go into, they're not necessarily anatomists. They're more so in game design, but in a lot of film stuff, they're not. And also, you can learn the anatomy. The anatomy is not that difficult to learn. But if I come in here, see, if I go like this, I'm saying that this leg is going in this direction, see, like this. And then down here is the cylinder coming in like this, okay? So the skinny leg is not the actual leg. The skinny leg is the skinny version of the leg. So what's going to happen here is I'm just setting it up. I'm basically measuring, right? And I'm making sure that, you know, it's generally looking the way I want it to look. So I'll come in here. And then when I come in, see, now I'm putting on the actual leg. If she's sitting, maybe the bicep of the leg is hanging down in here a little bit, see? Here is the gracilis coming in, see? And everything is going to be rounded on both ends. We're coming in here and rounding everything on both ends like this. Right in here, going over the femur, is the vastus medialis in here. So I'll talk to you about that in a moment. And then in here, we are always very aware of cross contouring through here. So these are all cross contouring like this. All right. This is cross contouring like this. The iliopital band, by the way, the sartorius right here is a thick band. The iliopital is on the outside of the leg. So this is coming in here like this. In here, you have adductor muscles that are coming in, and they come in like this. And there are three of them, and you rarely see them there. And also, they will affect the shape. If you do see a model that's so thin that you see these, all of these things are curved. Okay? Then when I get down here, I attach the foot. Now, the foot here, I'm going to show you from the side. And in fact, I want you to notice something here. I am showing you this leg flat. Nobody's thinking about it, but I'm showing you this leg flat. And I'm showing you this leg dimensional, like this. Okay? I am already combining a one-sided shape with a two-sided shape. All right? So I'm already using my box system. You know, I showed it to you seconds ago. And in the first demo afterwards, I'm showing it to you because flat provides clarity. It's easy to see. It's easy to read. We show things from the side when we want them to be most easily understood. Okay? Dimension provides depth. And what's interesting about dimension and flat is that if I have a flat shape here and I have a dimensional shape here, see? If I have a flat shape and a dimensional shape together, the dimensional shape has the effect of pushing the flat shape back, and the flat shape has the effect of making us notice the dimensional shape more and push it forward. So I'm using a concept called juxtaposition. Juxtaposition. It's a direct comparison. And what a direct comparison does, this is a big art term, by the way, juxtaposition is a key to communicating in art. Juxtaposition basically makes us notice the quality of each of the items that are next to each other. It makes us notice the flatness and it makes us notice the dimensionality. Okay, enough of that for now. So when I'm drawing the foot, I'm going to come in here and say, my foot is a 1 to 1, 2, 3 ratio right in here, goes like this, see? And toes are extra. Toes come in here and they're extra. And this is the hinge joint of the foot. And so what happens is if we're looking at the tibia coming in, it basically sits on top of this hinge joint, see? And it does what hinge joints do. It slides back and forth. So it goes like this. Okay? And it bumps out on the front. Also, the foot breaks into thirds like this too. So in here are the carpal bones of the foot. And by the way, I just call them there's a fancy name for that, and I've long since forgotten it. I'm looking at the inside of the foot, and we're coming in here. Here is the big toe. So this whole thing is being divided into 3 parts like this, see? And they affect the surface of the foot, but at the same time, we don't have to go bonkers about the whole thing. And then, just to create my cool motion effects, see, I'll come in here and do this, and I'll let these be slightly less. And what I'm using juxtaposition. I have my main one, and then I have my 2 on the sides, and that communicates the idea. So I have solid and fading away. That's juxtaposition. You know what's going on, okay? The other thing we're going to notice, I'll put feet in different positions, but for right now, I'm going to have you take a look. And so what I do is I come in here, and I'm going to add my foot right here, see? And I go like this. And when you're doing any kind of drafting, if somebody does this, if they draw a line coming down like this, and then they do this, they're saying this is a 90-degree angle. So that's a symbol for 90-degree angle. 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, toes are extra. And then here is basically where the foot is going to fit, okay? Now in here, we're looking at the inside. So I know that I'll come in here, and this is going to roll down like this, and I'm going to see the bone here. I'll see this here, and I'm going to see this in the back. And we're not going to worry too much about that. Maybe a little high. I think that's a little high. So I'm going to use the magic of Photoshop, and I'm just going to lower it a little bit. Okay. So bring it down to about there. Feels better. Okay. So bring this down like this. Okay. And now let me show you how this works. If I bring a leg out like this, the leg is extended. The top muscle of the leg is working. This is going to come in like this. This is straight. Everything is coming in and attaching below the knee. Okay. So this is simple. Let's not forget simple and complex. We always have to make sure everything is working. This is complex. Then I'm going to come here, and this is going to be bunched calf going like this. So this is simple, and this is complex. And then I'm going to put the angle of the foot like this. That is 1, and I'm going to arc it. Right in here, that's a 90-degree angle. Just because it's changing direction doesn't mean we flatten it out. Foot squashing is a big problem among drawing students. Crushing feet cruelly. Okay, so we come in here. There are shapes on the top of the foot. That first third is going to modify that foot a bit. We come in here like this. And if the foot is not touching the ground, it's going to follow the toes. So toes lead the foot unless something stops them, like ground, okay? And again, every time I draw a little piece like this, it'll be a little bit too big because I'm explaining it and making it bigger in my mind. You'll do this too, by the way. If you're afraid of drawing something, you'll draw it too big. When I'm explaining things, I'll tend to draw it too big. Okay, so I go in here like this, okay? And then all of these shapes, we're gonna accentuate some shadows in there. This will be in here like this. This is going like this. This is popping up. This is popping up. This is stretching. And then the ankle will be in here. Okay? If I come in and do this, this is interesting because you sort of get the same thing anyway. This is going to come in. This comes in. This is here. But now the foot is going to go up. So the calf is straightened out a little bit. Remember, it only comes halfway down. And in this case, the foot is going to point up. Okay? So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to angle it like this. So now the foot's doing this. 1, 2, 3. This is going to be like this because the heel, because the foot is pointing up, doesn't mean the bone on the heel suddenly squashes itself. And then the toes are going in this direction, see? So unless the foot is basically pushing against something, the foot follows the toes wherever the toes are going. And see, I've done it again. I've made it too big. The other thing I'll find is I'll have these little things that'll happen, and then they'll go away, and I'll develop a new bad habit I got to battle with. Okay? All right. Now, the foot, once again, I'm going to come here, and I'll say here, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. I'm using a learning tool here, which is I'm making you listen to me do this over and over again so that it'll stick in your heads, okay? So we come in here, and I'm going to grab this, Control J. I'm going to bring it down here, Control E, and then we're going to come in here, oops, like this. And I'm going to lighten it. And this is what you could do with your preliminary drawings. You can come in there with your preliminary drawings, finish the whole thing out, make all your mistakes, and just lighten it afterwards if you want, okay? Now remember, here is the hinge joint up in here. If I'm looking at the outside of the foot, I'm going to get a heel that comes in like this. There's going to be a slight gap, and basically at the 50% point in here is where the little toe begins. So we're going to get this coming in, it drops down, and this is going to go like this. And then we draw the little toe on the outside. See, we're just going to draw this here because that puts the front on the box. I was spending a lot of time talking about putting the front on the box during the review. And by the way, I didn't have the link to post it. Everything is done. It just hasn't been posted yet. So you guys may, oh, maybe it got posted late last night. Some of you may have seen it. Normally I post them on the day I do them. Okay. So this is basically, here are essentially the carpal bones, these small bones that come up here. That's what you have in your hand. And I'm just putting it here. And then these are the pads on the outside, and the pads will slightly come out like this. And this is where I'm going to say, you know, it's about the thickness of a Converse tennis shoe right down in here. See? So it's about the thickness of a tennis shoe. And this shape is taking that into consideration. Okay? On the inside, here is the hinge joint. Here is this. And as I showed you before, we're actually spending more time on this bone because it's more prominent on the inside. You're going to see other bones going in the distance. Again, we have these carpal bones here. And then we're going to come in here, and here is the heel in the back. And then the big toe slopes down, and the little toes go like this, okay? And again, we come in here, and this is a hinge joint, okay? So a hinge joint is exactly what you think. It's a joint which basically goes in one direction. So it goes here, and then usually there's a stopper on it. So for example, if this is an elbow, the hinge joint will come down to about here, and it stops, all right? These are our main joints. So a hinge joint, that's knees, elbows, okay? Then we have ball joints, okay? So a ball joint is where you have a socket coming out like this. The ball fits in the socket, and there's all these things that allow muscles to attach. And then the limb comes out from there. And what happens is this limb can go in a circle, see? So this limb can go up here, it can come over here, it can go back into here. And this is a ball joint, and this is shoulder and the hip, okay? Then we have false ball joints, okay? And false ball joints are wrists and ankles, okay? So when I look at a wrist, it's coming in like this. And I'm just going to make things as simple as I can here. This is not even my fancy drawing pencil. This is a pencil I use to prevent me from getting lost in my own drawing technique. And then here, the back of the hand is the thickness of the back of the wrist, okay? So the back of the hand is the thickness of the back of the wrist. The thickness of the hand on the side is the thickness of the wrist on the side. So if I come in here and I put in a plank like this, and I want to draw the simple forearm, it's going to go like this. Then it bulges like this a little bit, comes forward, and then it flares, because we flare a little bit at all of our joints. That's how the muscles attach. There's a triangular shape here, and then the side of the hand is the thickness of the side of the wrist, you see, like this. So if I have a table under here and I place my arm on a table, I'll be able to slide a pencil in there, okay? And then the fingers, I'll talk to you about fingers, are in here like this, see? And then here, this is where the thumb is. Now, so the hand is wide on top, narrow on the side, and it basically is like a flipper. It goes up and it can go down. And it can come forward, see, like this. Now, it can also, I don't like that one. That one confused my demo. We'll just do this, and we'll say here. It can also wiggle a little bit from side to side, okay? And this is why it's a false, ball joint, because it can do this, but it can't do it as well as the shoulder or the hip. You see what I mean? It's got limitations. So you have this complex series of carpal bones in here, which are allowing it to do something evolutionarily that we want it to do. but that basically the ball joint would do better. I mean, we can't have a ball joint in our hand because there are too many bones there, right? So this can go a little bit this way, you know, 20 to 30%, depending on the person, say like this. And we exaggerate the thumb a little bit, and it can go a little bit this way. And what I'm going to say is, don't even worry about this. This is the important thing, because that's the big motion. This is the big motion. I'm going to say, get this first. This is a refinement. Okay? Now, when we look at the ankle, and now we're going to start, because I'm talking about joints here, right? So we only have 1, 2, 3 joints, and then we have the spinal column that is a different thing. So I'm going to talk about the spinal column as separate. So this is, you know, the false okay. With the false ball joint of the foot, basically the plank, because I have a plank on my forearm, but the plank of the foot goes like this. And then the foot, the front of the foot is on the front. See, it goes like this. Okay? And so the ankle, depending on whether we're looking at the inside of the foot or not, here's the, here, 1, 2, 1, I'm getting that foot on there. You see what I'm talking about here? Everybody getting this? All right. Toes are extra. So the toes are going to go in here, and they sort of favor the number 2 toe. Everything kind of points at the number 2 toe. And then in here, this is where you're going to get a bump out, because this is where the carpal bones are. And if we start really working this thing out, see, we end up going like this. Okay? Now, if I'm looking at the bottom of the foot, a simple way of looking at it is like this. And I divide it in thirds. Here is the front pad. If I want to get fussy, I'll get the front pad divides into 3 pieces. Here is the arch, and here is where the heel fits. And as I said, right here is the bump out where the little toe comes, and then the other toes are in here. See? There is a little bit of a thing that happens here. The foot is actually curved, which means this whole thing goes like this. And you're going to get this happening. And then again, the big toe, chevron shaped, is here. And what you're going to get is these little toes, you know, squishing in on the side in here. And I'll do a whole thing on toes when we get there. All right? So when we're looking at the foot from the front, so here is my plank coming towards us, right? I'm going to see this coming, and I always start with this, by the way. I don't care, you know, I always start with that, and then I add to it. So I'll come in and I'll say, that's good, and then, oh, the big toe bumps out like this, and this comes around like this, and then I create a separation, and then I'll put the nails on the top of the toes. And toes are where I tend to work from the front back a little bit like this. Then this is in here. Oh, and it's curved, so I'm going to see a little bit of the side of the foot over there. All right? So what have I got here? Here, that's a one-sided object. If I want the toe to feel more dimensional, I put the side in. That's 2. So now I've turned the foot slightly, and I'm getting more dimension out of it, right? I might have another foot right here, and I leave it flat. And what I'm saying, and what the viewer will do, is they will look at this one. So I can tell people which foot to look at depending on which one has one side of it and which one has two sides. Okay? Because remember, a one-sided box, all things being equal, cannot compete with a two or three-sided box. The eye will go here first. Now I can change that by lighting and stuff like that, but you know, in these pieces of art, you don't tend to work against yourself, right? You tend to work for yourself. You're not working against yourself. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is that when we get into the ankle here, there are actually two bones, and I'm just first going to make the simple point, which is the ankle is high and forward on the inside. And this is the tibia coming in right here. So tibia. And the ankle is low and back on the outside, and that's the fibula coming in on the outside. So this is tibia. It's in the front. And then fibula is in the back, and it's right here. So when I'm looking at the side of my foot here, I know that if I'm looking here, it's going to be, you know, roughly in, say, this area. I pull it off and in, see? And now that's wrapping over the front and coming up like this. And then on the outside, it'll be low and back, okay? How do we draw an ankle? Okay, so an ankle is basically this. It's a shape that is pulling off the side of your figure or your leg, and it looks like this, see? Okay? So what's going to happen is I'll come in here, and this will be in shadow. This might be in shadow. And in fact, the area in here might be in shadow. And so what's happening is the ankle is projecting off the background, facing the light a little more. See? So what's happening is it's coming up into the light. Okay? So this is a very diagrammatic example. If I want to draw the ankle a bit more realistically, then what I'll do is I'll come in, and the ankle is actually curved at the bottom, and I'm going to have a turning edge and a coarse shadow right here. So I'll come in here and do a little bit of fancy drawing, okay? Because that's the difference. This fancy drawing, right, is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to round the edges like this a little bit, and it's maybe round something in here, so I'm putting some turning edges in. I'll talk about that. The rest of it is going to be exactly the same. See, I'll come in here, and all of this is in shadow, but it looks more ankle-like. And all of this is going to be doing the same thing. Okay? So, ankle. If I look at it just from the side, I'll oftentimes see something that's like this, and then I'll see a little bit of a drop shadow down there. Then I put this in here, and that's a pretty realistic looking ankle right there. Okay? Again, doesn't have to be complicated to be good. Just keep that in mind. All right? So, on toes, since we're here, let's just do the toes. Okay. We think of a cylinder. This is what happens to me every day. I'm going to talk about the leg, and now I'm talking about hands and feet and ankles. But I do cover everything. So we're going to have a cylinder here. And then I put in my floor plan. This is where I want my toes to go. See? And the big toe is smaller on the outside than the inside. And it slopes down like this. And the important thing about toes is getting the end piece on. So I'm just going to keep this really simple. The big toe comes down like this. And then these toes, the number 2 toe is the highest. There's a space between the big toe and the number 2 toe. And then it goes down like this. This comes out like this. And then here we have this. So once again, what's the important thing here? The important thing here is the end of the toes. Right in here. You can get the ends of the toes, and let's put the sides in. This will help you to understand. Here's what happens when I see most students who are new to intermediate. They get down to the foot, and then suddenly they become expressionistic, right? They get to the hands, and suddenly the hands are expressionistic as a way of, say, remaining non-specific is what I'm talking about. This is, they're very good and very comfortable with certain things. And then we get out to the feet and the hands, especially the toes, and everything sort of fades out. Some people are really, really gifted at it. It's a beautiful fade. They've been perfecting this form of evasion for years, right? So let's try another approach, which is to know what you have to get in the toe to make it work, okay? So if I look at this thing individually coming in like this is going like this, see? This is basically collectively the shape of the 4 toes together, see? And they're in here. I need to get this, and I need to get this. And here I'm going to have a little bit of an incline. I may want to get some of that, and that'll go back, okay? On the big toe, I have to get the angle. The big toe is coming down like this, and it comes down like this. Here is the side, and you get this chevron shape. It's like this going on with the big toe, see? So the big toe comes in, and it's bigger on the inside than the outside, okay? The purpose of the big toe is it's a gripper, so we can take off. It also balances us, so we can stay balanced, and we're going to have a little bit of a thing right there, okay? You're going to see typical positions. So if I take my floor plan here, I'm going to have my big toe coming like this, and these will come in kind of like this, and this is sort of a standard toe position, see? Then if I am getting ready or I'm standing up on my toes, the big toe will go in this direction a little bit. Oops, that was a corn I drew on the side of the toe. And then here, these toes are here, and the little toe comes out and does its own thing out here, okay? Pardon me, that's going to bother me, so I have to fix it. It's funny what bothers me. Okay, so, and then here are our toes in here, and then this toe's over here. So in this case, what's happening is this is for balance, and so is this. So the little toe is kind of like a little big toe. The little toe, when you need to, spreads out, and you're basically spreading your footprint on the ground. It's like in a sports car. You don't want an 18-inch wheel, you want a 20-inch wheel. You're getting a wider grip on the ground, and these are grippers. Okay? Now, this is the most common position you'll see the toes in, okay? Occasionally, so this is balance, and then these are all grippers. So we're not using the little toe for anything else. Sometimes, especially if you look at Tarzan, the movie, animated movie, come in here, you'll see Tarzan who's spreading his toes out like this, and he's really wrapping his toes around tree branches, okay? And this is what tree-based primates do. They basically wrap their toes around tree branches, okay? And their toes are long too. So their toes are superior grippers, right? They have better grippers. Our toes are mainly for walking on the ground and for balancing us as we walk on the ground. If I look at the big toe from the side, this is going to come down. Here is a big ball joint. This comes down like this. This comes in. This is basically back here, and it's going to go like this, and there's the nail. So here is the big ball joint on the inside of the foot. This slopes down to here, And then this is sloping down to here, and the pad inserts behind the joint. And every time we come over a joint, we step down like this. And you'll have more or less pad underneath the toe. And then again, under here, you're going to have a pad about the thickness of a tennis shoe right in there. Okay, a Converse tennis shoe, not a Nike Air tennis shoe, right? But a Converse tennis shoe, okay? If I'm looking at the other toes, I'm going to see this. I'm going to see this coming forward, and this comes down and goes like this. Here is the big joint, and the first joint goes up like this. So they're going up, then they come down, and then they come forward. So when you're coming in here, you're going to notice that these joints are designed differently because the bones are arranged to do the thing that we need to have the bones do, right? And most primates have the same bones, and most animals actually have the same bones, including some reptiles. And so what happens is the length of these bones changes and the angle at which they approach things change over time. And that actually is how they evolve. So birds have arms. Birds literally, when they fly, are doing this, you know, right? Except that these things are super, super long, right? And their upper arm is short. So that's what's happening. And again, there are different birds evolve different kinds of wings. So in some cases, the upper arm is super short, barely visible, and the fingers are super long. In other cases, it's sort of a combination of a longer finger, but a somewhat longer upper and lower arm that allows the bird to kind of soar and do various things. So their wings are the same. They have the same bones, but the bones are different lengths. Okay? Okay, so how do I draw a toe coming towards me? And this is the big problem, which is the end of the toe. This is what causes the pain and suffering, I am convinced. It's right here. And a lot of what I describe is, this is what I wish they'd taught me when I was in art school. That is what causes the pain and suffering. So let's address that issue, okay? If I'm going to draw this toe, I'm going to say, here it is. It comes in, comes down like this, and it comes forward like this. And then here is the toe behind it, coming forward like this. Notice that this is behind this. This is coming in, forward, behind. Little toe is going back there like that. And that is going to give me this, see? See how that works? Okay. So if I draw a box like this, I know it's a box, but it's not very satisfying. To really draw that box, I have to put this in, see? Right? So to draw the toes, I put the toenail on. The toenail is the top of the box. And then I will pay attention to things like the edge, like right in here is where the joint is. So I'll pay attention there. And this is where I put my drawing, right? I put it right here. That's what needs to be resolved. What I need to draw using the parts of the toe is this edge. I don't have to put anything in here. Nobody gives a damn. Who cares? It's just an area inside, right? All that really matters is where it's turning. All that matters is where it's turning. And it's always going to matter, but it's always going to matter there, because this is where the values, if you're painting the toe later, are going to change. And that area of change right in there is what matters in a painting. So if we come in here and do this, we come in here and do this, boom, 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 we've got some decent little toes in there, see? Now the big toe is the same thing, right? I'm going to come in there and put in the big toe. It's here, comes in, It's this kind of shape, right? And, you know it's a big toe, but what's really going to sell it is when I do this, see? And then I start drawing around the corners in here, because that's really the only area where it really matters. And I start putting it in there, and there you go. I got a big toe, okay? Another thing is, and this gets into foreshortening, and I was going to talk about foreshortening up in here. See, I haven't even gotten out of my thing yet. But here we have foreshortening. And foreshortening is putting one thing in front of another, see? So if I have this box here, and I make this corner dark, and I let it get light here, and I come up in here, I'm implying that there's a little bit of atmosphere between the two boxes, see? So by not connecting the boxes, and by doing this, I can make the boxes feel like they're going away and that the one in the back is farther from the one in the front. If I come in here, see, I have an overlap, but what I have is an overlap which makes the second box, the one in the back, appear to be close to the first one. Another one I can do is I can have this be here like this, and I have this go like this, and I can put in a drop shadow, and that drop shadow will show me the distance between the two, but also show me the shape of the object that the shadow is falling on, okay? These are all overlaps. Same thing works with circles. And then for any of you who've taken, Glenn's courses or, any of a number of the teachers in town, the multiple beam here is very, very handy, because any object like in here that passes and stops another line is in front. So front, back. If I come down here and do it again, front, back, okay? Now, any line passing over another line is going to be darker. So if I do this, that's not as effective as if I do this. I can then balance that by darkening on the opposite side. But what I don't want to do is just simply outline. So I'm going from, dark to light. This is a balancer, so I'm dark to light. Here's right on the opposite, so I'm going to go dark to light, maybe a little bit of dark over here. You see what I mean? So what I'm doing is, this is the effect. And all of this stuff is integrating the effect into the whole. So this is integration. Okay, so coming back down to our toes, down here, if I want to draw the toe from the front, I'm going to come in here. I have this sort of squishy box, right? I have my nail, which puts the top on the box, and I come in and I'll draw this, see? And then behind it, I put the middle piece. And then behind that, I put the big piece, you see? So when I do these things, you want to draw across the center frequently. So a lot of times people will come in and they'll kind of draw foreshortening like this. But students don't like to draw across the form. They don't like drawing across the center. And this doesn't cut it. So we have the unhappy face of the teacher, okay? If I come in here and I do this, this is the happy face of the teacher, okay? Because this is actually pushing everything back. Now, I can come in here and get artful with this. You see what I mean? But I have to deal with the fact that it's passing over. I can make it lighter. I can do things like that, but I have to basically deal with the fact that it's passing over, okay? All right. So if I want to make the foot do this, I'll go this goes up like that. Here is the heel, boom, boom, boom. And there's the floor plan. Here is the leg coming over the top, okay? Then I come in and I start designing inside the shape. See? I start putting this in. I start drawing the big toe. Then I bring the calf in to the Achilles tendon, and I got a foot going forward, okay? It helps to show the foot arcing. So when you do this, the arc is helpful, but you have to keep in mind that you want to keep this, all of these things are at a 90-degree angle because that's bone, it's not changing direction. And then here's the toe. And again, here is the leg coming in. This is a person standing on their toes. If they're standing on the toes, the calf is going to be really punched out like that because the calf muscle's working, coming back to here, coming forward, okay? And if you're drawing shoes, the balance point is in the heel. So if you're drawing shoes, this is the balance point on the front, right? The wide part of the front. But if we take this back part, the balance point is going to be right there, okay? So essentially, you know, if you're going to do, say, you know, slightly more reasonable high heels, let's say. Here are the toes. We find this point, drop that to the ground. That comes straight to the ground. And then all of this comes in here like this, see? Now the same thing is going to be true with, say, a wedgie. So if I take, you know, a shoe that's more, you know, a mock high heel. So it lengthens your legs a little bit, but it's not quite a high heel. Okay, so comes in here. And basically there it is. The balance point is still here. There we go. There's the toe cap. This is actually going to come over on the tip here a little bit. And then the rest of it is design. You see what I mean? And what you're going to find is that the construction of the shoe itself emulates the foot. You're going to have something coming in here that's sewn. Then you even have a toe cap frequently that's sewn on. And here we're lacing up the front of the shoe. And then, you know, everything is designed so that there's free ankle movement. Okay, so there's this, all right? It's a great 1940s cartoonist who would put women in high heel shoes that look like this. And their feet would come down and their toes were just a line coming forward and they would be standing like this. And, you know, it just, what it does is it creates this beautiful long line right here. And then here you have complexity, right? And so, you know, these people are always thinking in terms of design, right? People are always thinking in terms of design. So just keep that in mind. All right. So I digressed from the leg, didn't I? So if we come in here, this is the top of my leg. This is coming in like this. And right here is the rectus femoris. And here is the three-finger gap. The rectus femoris actually comes in from the outside. So it favors the outside, and it's going to come forward like this. And it is the one that ends the first. All muscles have a thick part and a tendon. So all muscles have a tendon, a thick part, and another tendon. See, like this. So this is coming in like this, and it's attached to the outside. Also attached to the outside is the fascia, and the fascia is the muscle, which is right. I'm going to come in here and make a slight modification. I'm just going to come in here and go. Okay. So right in here, we roll this over like this. This is coming down like this, and I have to remind people of the cylinder, okay? How do I do it? Well, the fascia is helpful right in here. It fits right in here. The medius is here, and the maximus is here. The vastus lateralis comes in here like this, and I'll give you a more finished looking demo in a bit. See what I'm talking about? And again, what I'm doing is I am rolling over this form like this. I'm rolling over this form like this. Now, a lot of people pay a lot of attention to the ilioorbital band, and you know, it's there, and there's a little shadow that comes in like this that you can see, but the ilioorbital band is not as powerful as the vastus lateralis, which is a huge muscle on the outside of the leg. So I would draw the vastus lateralis and just add a little shadow for the ilioorbital band, okay? Coming in here, attaching up in here, and coming down to here, this is the sartorius, and it attaches below the joint down here. And then right in here is the vastus medialis, right in here, okay? Coming in this direction, let me just move this over a bit. Coming in this direction, here, pubic bone. So right here is the gracilis coming in right like here, see? Now the gracilis, it gets a little thicker in the middle, but what we like about the gracilis is that it travels in a straight line. It just goes straight from here to here. And I'm going to come in here and eliminate some of this stuff in here, because now I'm doing another. See, I'm building everything on that cylinder. Okay. And right in here, you'll see little striations on some people, and there will be 3 of them coming in here like this. Okay. And here is the pubic bone, and right in here is the pubic fat pad that goes over the pubic bone. So it's right in here, okay? Underneath is where the sits bones are, and what you don't see the sits bones. You never do unless, you know, something's eaten you, right? So we come in here, and the bicep of the leg is in front of the rear end, and it is thickest at the bottom, and it comes in here and attaches in the front too. So what we're getting in here, and you're going to see some of these coming in here at the top. So what we're getting in here is this. And this is the part that counts. This is, we are cross-contouring. That's the technical name for it. But we also call it wireframing a lot of the time. In part because students, in my experience, you have to explain cross-contouring and it confuses them. But because of the computer, if you say wireframing, they all know what it is. So, you know, terminology changes based on how people use it. So I don't mind changing it. This is actually going here, and then it's going under like this. So this is underneath, and it's going away. Here, here, here. And it starts to flatten out over here. So here, this is going away, this is going away, this is going in this direction, this is fairly thick, this is thick and round. When I get in here, you're going to notice that this rolls over, this is thick, but this will be flattening out a little bit, okay? Here is where the knee is, right in here. And I'm not going to worry about that just at the moment. That's where it is, though, okay? Down here, this is where the 2x4 is, you see, for the leg, which I explained earlier, right? Wrapping around the 2x4, here's the 2x4, the calf wraps around it. And I find that helpful because it lets you know why these shapes are doing what they're doing. See, they're wrapping around this shape. So you're getting this thing happening, okay? So here, up under here, where we can't see it really very well, I'm going to put it down here so you can see it, is where the calf comes in. See, comes in like this, comes in, and then the soleus on the inside is in here, okay? And then this here is a little rounder and a little thicker at the bottom. So this is going to come in like this, you see? And then I might see a little bit on the other side. Now, what's happening here? This has got a big ball, and right in here, we're going to get a drop shadow coming in maybe, and we're going to put the knee on the front. I'm going to show you the knee, okay? First, let me make all of these different colors. Now, you have a handout sheet that shows you the names for all of these, and that means you don't have to sit around and watch me writing it. But it's also good for you to see me drawing it, so that's why I'm doing this. And right here, these really bright colors right here, this is what really counts, right here. And then in here, this is the bicep of the leg down in here. In here is your rear end, down in there. That's under the sits bones. I'll put this up here too because I start running out of colors. Okay. Now, these really sort of muted shapes in here, these are 3 separate muscles, but by and large, they are covered up with skin or fat pads, so you don't really see them too much, and sometimes I'll just group them. The ones that are separate colors are the ones on the surface that you can really see, and that's what's going to make the biggest difference to you. So right in here, see, is the calf. This is a really obvious muscle that we can see. So yeah, we really care about this one, right? And then the soleus is right in here. And some people have a very pronounced soleus. The soleus has an interesting purpose. Its job is actually to pump blood back up to your heart. So it doesn't really help you, you know, like muscularly, other than to pump blood back to your heart, which I would say is probably a pretty big help. Okay. And then here you might see a little bit of the calf over there. All right. So on knees. Oh, and by the way, let me just duplicate one thing here because I want you to see, because I'm sorry to say this, you know, but not all muscles are equally important. So we are going to come in here and say, look, here is the pubic bone right here. Right here is the gracilis coming in. That's really important. We come up here. There's the top of the leg. Here is the sartorius. That's really important. And then in here, rear end, and I'm going to change the bottom of the leg. So if I come here, these are the really important muscles because they set everything up. Okay, so if I get this in the right position and I get that in the right position, I then know where everything else is. And they also stick out on the surface really well. Okay? Here, I can put it in over here so you can see it. Here, this is really important because it sticks out. See? This is really important because it's a straight line muscle. Okay? Everything else I can find because I've found those first two muscles, you see? Like this in here is easy to find because it's in this little triangle in here. Anytime you can create a triangle, by the way, that's good. They fit under here. And then coming in here, see, this is going over the bone, kind of shiny. And then on top here, let's put this. This is rectus femoris coming in like that, okay? Then down here, we have the calf, see? And then here, we have the soleus in here, coming in like this. And then up in the front here, this is basically bone. And you're gonna have some muscles that pass over it, but it's basically bone. So this is bone, okay? And then here is bone. See, this is bone down in there. Here, if I can still see it, okay, it's there. Here is the rectus femoris right here, see, coming down from here. Comes over to here and turns into a tendon and wraps over the knee. Here is basically the deltoid of the butt, right? So we come in here, that's the tensor fascia, or the fascia, the medius, and then here is the maximus right here. And the maximus passes over the bicep of the leg, which is underneath, and it passes under the vastus lateralis. This is the medialis. Oops, this is the medialis over here. This is the lateralis over here. And it's really big, by the way. It's really big. It's over in this area over here. And again, the ilioorbital band comes to the front. And then underneath the rear end, that's the bicep of the leg coming in like that over there, okay? And I haven't developed the calf enough for you to see it, but you can see what I'm talking about. All right? So, knees. Knees are joints, right? So the knee is a hinge joint. The hip box is right here. Pubic bone. Tailbone. Great trochanter right in here. I'm going to make it go sideways because I have this coming out and you're going to get a shape that goes like this, okay? And it's pretty round. And then here you get a box and it's round like this, but it's boxy on the front, comes in like this. That's the tibia. The fibula is here, but I don't really worry about it in this particular demo. And then the patella stays in the same place and it's right there, okay? So this here and this here is what I'm drawing when I come in and I draw the leg coming in like this. And I'll say, now we have to deal with the knee. These are basically two balls that are equally sized. And what I draw on the leg is I tend to draw this here and this here. Then I draw the outside contour coming down. I put this in here, and then there's a little pillar of the knee and some details down in there. And I do that, right? So what's happening here is, you know, we have this coming out and coming in, see? And then here, this is coming out, sitting on something, and then attaching down in here. So everything is attaching on the outside. Everything attaches basically both on the inside and the outside on this bottom area down in here, okay? So here, we're looking at the outside. There is the medius maximus. This passes over, and right in here is where we get the vastus lateralis coming in like this. And it goes up high, by the way. It goes up high like that, and then it comes in. And then the ilioorbital band comes in. And so what you're going to see is that, you know, here is the vastus, and it passes over the bone, and it's thick. See, it's right out here, and it's thick. Comes in, and we don't really know where, I mean, we do know where it begins, but it appears to emerge because, you know, it's basically wrapped in tendon and things up at the top. Gluteus, that's a tensor fascia. It's not quite that shape, but you know, it's close enough for what I'm doing right now. Here is the medius. And then here is the maximus, and it comes up in here and it passes under the vastus lateralis, and it is on top of the bicep of the leg. And the bicep is attaching on the outside in here like this, okay? The calf comes out, and it is attaching to the tibia, and it comes out like this. And as I said before, it only comes halfway down, see? And it comes in like this, but it rolls up underneath and comes down like this. Here we're here. And then 1 to 1, 2, 3. And then the calf is in here, and it becomes the Achilles tendon. And then we're going to have a series of muscles on the outside here, which I'm going to go over. That's a whole day going over the forearm and the lower leg. So come in here, there, and then come here. This is the soleus. I'm sorry, these are the muscles on the side in here. This is not the soleus, but the muscles on the side coming in here. And then up on the top, the very, very top up there, we'll have, up in here is the rectus femoris coming in, okay? So, foreshortening, things like that. Let's come in here, over here.
Will?
Yeah?
Just let you know it's 10:29.
Okay. Thank you. Ah, there we go. Here are my guys. Okay. So, you know, here, do these things two ways, take advantage, but here, three finger gap, going like this, genitalia. Here, the leg coming down. Here, this is the gracilis, but remember the bicep of the leg is on the other side of it. Here is the sartorius coming down right here. Here is the rectus femoris pulling in from the outside. And you see this little shadow here. It's actually turning into tendon and going into the knee, which is right here. And then here, this is going to the back. And what you have to realize is you see a little bit of the side of the butt on the outside of that box. And then there you have here. So right here is the fascia tensing, little gluteus medius. Right in here, pulling in from the outside like this, coming out like this is the rectus femoris, and it's coming in like this. That's tendon. Vastus medialis, and you're going to notice that here's the bicep of the, or that's the vastus lateralis coming in. And then right in here, we have this shape going like this. And there is the pillar of the knee. So this is bone coming in, and you're going to notice that it favors the outside. See, it goes like this. And then this is high and forward, and then low and back. This tends to arc a little higher, and then the calf is coming out from behind this shape like this. There is the soleus coming forward. The sartorius you can't see very well, it's going in there. I can see a slight line in here where the gracilis is. And then this are all those adductor muscles in there coming in here like this. Here is overlap. Overlap, I would do that. Then I do this. There's the plank. Then 1, 2, 3. Toes are extra. See what I'm talking about? So then we come in here. I start by doing this, see? And then I'll say, oh, I get it. We're going to do this. And then you put the fronts on the toes and you work back, see? And then I see a little bit of the back so that that foot feels more dimensional. What's happening here is right in here, lowest attached rib. Here is the rib cage underneath doing this, and you can feel it. See it? You can feel it. Here is the pectoralis. Here is clavicle. This is the opening for his neck. See? And then the clavicular pulling in over here. And then again, this guy's fit, but notice how you're not seeing every muscle or every fiber coming out. Right in here, no muscle no muscle passes through there because that's actually pretty thick with tendon. Okay, so this is coming in. This comes down to here. See? Now notice this. See, there is the actual stomach muscle coming in. This is the sheath over here. And then here he's stretching. Here he's squashing. Okay? You guys see what I'm talking about here? All right. Now, here's the arm. I draw it like this. The deltoid rolls over that surface, and it rolls over the surface like any object would roll over a cylindrical surface. Here is the bicep. It actually goes from the inside to the outside a little bit. And then here we have these coming in, but the main thing I'm concerned about here right now is just this. See, all these are just planes. Nothing to be afraid of. You're not afraid of any stinking hand. Huh? Hands and feet don't scare you. All right? So here, bring this forward. There is the box. This is me just saying, look, everything I'm telling you is true. This goes like this. This is going to come forward, and then these tend to have a rhythm. Okay? Here's his head. Angle of the top of the head, angle of the front of the head, find the jaw. Here, there's the ear. Hair is extra. In his case, a lot of extra. And then here, this is where the face is. Here is the center line. We're looking up. And then here, the nose projects off. We bring it back, and this is where the nose inserts. So that actually is going to give us a lot of dimension in the head. Okay? Right in here, remember that the cheeks exist between the eyes and the base of the nose. So the cheeks will be in here. And then this is pulling to the foreground. So that's the same face demo I gave you. And on the rib cage, you're going to notice this too. Here's the flattish front of the rib cage. Notice how his nipples are right along the flattish front of the rib cage. Okay, let's come over here. All right, he's about to get into a fight, but he doesn't look terribly confident, I must say. Okay, so we're going to come in here and say, this is in front of this. So you would draw this first. And that is in front of this. You see? Everybody see what I'm talking about? Then here, this, and we square this off. Always square this off. And then here, you know, here is the hinge joint. I'll get into that more. And then this will be darker. or in this case, lighter. And here we start modifying our shapes that we've already put in. We're working from big to small, and that's going to get us to basically there. And then here with the hand, I'm going to come in and say, here is the back of the hand. Here is the thumb. And I exaggerate these quite a bit, by the way. I'm actually, I have a casual relationship with the facts of things when it comes to figures, because expression is more important than the facts. Here, lowest attached rib. You can tell the lowest attached rib. Let me take that out of there for just a second. You can tell the lowest attached rib frequently because you tend to have a slightly darker shadow there. So you see that slightly darker shadow? This is coming in like this. That's the lowest attached rib. This is coming up. Here's the base of the sternum in here. Now it's going over here. You see over here? And then here, sometimes you get a little flare in there like that. So right in here is where the rib is. And then under here, sometimes you'll see a shape that goes like this. And those are unattached ribs, okay? And what you're seeing right here is, this is the external oblique pulling up like this. We get down here, it's pulling like this. We come down here, and it's pulling all the way down like this. And then right in here, what you're seeing is the serratus anterior, see? And this is attached to the bottom side of the scapula. The scapula is over here, but it's underneath. You know, it actually pulls all the way over to the scapula, and this is the latissimus, actually, right in here, and it's blocking our view of where the serratus anterior goes. So this is going like this, see? If I come in here, that's in front, here, and then right in here, I've shown you guys this in my simple diagram. So I'll show you that here you draw this coming in. You come in, you kind of go like this. And I say the belly button's here, and then the hip will be somewhere down here. Okay? So here it is in life. Here's the lowest attached rib, and this is going like this, see, to the other side. There is the belly button, and the three-finger gap is right about there. So what that's allowing me to do is quickly capture all of these dynamics in my drawing, see? Then the center line, and the center line is what projects things forward. The center line is going to go like this and set that up, see? So here on him, see, the center line is going like this. And it tells me how he comes forward. It tells me how he's coming towards me. You see what I'm saying? Okay, so back in here, the clavicle, here's the opening right in here. This is the flattish front of the rib cage. This is our lowest attached rib. The clavicle is here, and it's a slight S curve, and it comes back to here. This goes back like this. We take the top, break it in half. Here is the ball joint coming out. The clavicular pulls off here, and then everything else is pulling off this front right in here. You see this front right here is all attachment. So all of this area in here is attachment point for the pectoralis. All of this is an attachment point. We don't want your pectoralis pulled out. So all of that is attachment. And what happens is sometimes you'll even see that you'll see that attachment coming up here like this. See, so it'll pull off a bit like this and then come in like this, okay? And then that is part, as we said before, it is part of the overall stomach system, which is in here. And that's what all of this stuff is relating to and helping you to work out. See, so this in here will be a little fold. You're going to have a little bit of a fold under here. We all have a little fat pad right under our navel. Sometimes it's a little bit thin. And, you know, teenagers have, you know, can have sort of unnaturally skinny bodies sometimes, right? Where it's just literally there isn't a fat pad on it. That was basically me as a teenager. Okay, so that's going down like that. And right in here, this is the deltoid. So the deltoid is attached to the clavicle, or actually the coracoid process and the clavicle, comes around. Here is the flat side, and that's actually the medial head. So here is one head, and then the last one comes from way in the back. So if we look at this from the top, see, it comes from here on the front and goes to here. The middle one is the lowest and goes down the arm the farthest. And then this one comes all the way from over here and attaches like this. It goes sort of 2/3 of the way across here, and this is only about 1/3 in on this side. And again, that's the deltoid popping off right in here, see? So there's going to have 3 heads on that deltoid right in here. And the deltoid is the butt muscle of the arm, right? So that's, again, remember that the arm and the leg are, one, installed backwards. So each one is installed in the opposite way. So the knees come forward, the elbows go back, right? And right in here, this is where you actually draw from the corner of the pectoralis. If you go like this and put in about 4, you'll get the serratus. And then the external oblique comes out like this. And oftentimes you don't see those striations, but they show up though. I mean, they do show up. Okay? All right. So here, same thing, right? Here is the rib cage. Comes in like this, comes up, comes around to there. That's the lowest attached rib. You're going to see this going like this. There's the belly button. Notice that there's a little shape above it, and there's another one under it, and then it divides like this. He has a muscle here, and a muscle here, and up in here. So he's fairly thin, but there's his little 6-pack right there. Here is the sheath coming off right in here. There is the external oblique. This is the flattish front of the rib cage, you see. And you'll notice that here is the clavicle. That's where the nipple is, right there. And everything is pulling right off of here, see. This is what I was talking about. Notice how the wrist, some of you guys make these impossibly small wrists. And then here is the thickness of the hand, see, which is rolling over to the other side. And then here is the front. So, okay, I'm going to help you with this. Those of you who are shy about hands and feet, I have the assignment for you. Nothing to be concerned about. I'm here for you. Okay? In a live class, if students were getting too uptight, you know, because they were nervous or being too perfectionistic, I would cut the time in half. And if I cut the time in half, they always did better. They always did better. Okay? So here we go. Let me ask if anybody has any questions.
There was a question, Will.
Okay.
It was.
I'm still reeling from the crit videos. So insightful. Okay, well, that's nice to hear.
Can you go up to 9:20 a.m.?
920?
Yes.
920. Okay. Well, okay. Rema, what I was going to suggest is while you're learning how to construct, it's a great idea to not do really heavy people because there's a little bit of a difference when you're drawing heavy people. You know, it's really its own class. Really, it really is its own class. And um, but you know, I once you get these measuring points in, it's a little easier to do. So using simple and complex with heavy people, let me share my screen again. Okay. So let me come over here where I put in all this stuff. Okay. So when you're, everybody has the same sort of basic structure underneath. That's the thing to realize with people that are a little heavier. Okay, that they're here and they're going to have the same you know, basic skeletal system as everybody else. Okay, but what happens is the skin gets thicker and everything sort of feels heavier. So it starts coming in like this. And muscle systems like the external oblique become exaggerated, right? So this starts going like this. Now these are present in a thinner person, but what happens is they become like an exaggerated version of themselves, okay, as time goes on. And this comes out here. Sometimes what you'll find with, say, a professional athlete is the shoulders will appear huge. But if the person who you're drawing hasn't ever been, say, a bodybuilder, like say a woman or something, or just a man who hasn't been a bodybuilder, their shoulders are going to be small, but you're going to get a lot of weight coming down like this. So you may want to come in here, and then also the latissimus in the back will be bigger. The other thing to keep in mind is fat pads don't tend to pass over joints. They break down into smaller shapes and they go like this, like this. Also, hands get plumper. So if I have a hand that's doing this, a heavier hand is going to be more like this, and they just get plumper. And the fingers can appear to be a little shorter even because everything is getting thicker. See? And then here's the little finger coming out. See? So everything appears to get a little bit thicker. You'll get a little bit of dimpling sometimes around the joint. And then this is going to be a lot thicker coming in here like this. So there's a general thickening of skin in general. And then depending on the individual, you're going to get different kinds of patterns, because what happens is there are different body types when it comes to being heavy. Not everybody is the same. But in a kind of a general short lecture, this is how I would do it. Okay, so here I have a simple side, and here I have a complex side, you see? So to answer your question, that's what I'm getting to. Here, relatively simple side, because it's all about relative things, and a more complex side. Here, you're going to have more overlaps in the legs going like this, see, coming forward. The knees will be a little bit wider, and then this is going to come in and be like this, you see? So here is my skinny leg. And by the way, I start with a skinny leg with everybody. So let's say I'm doing a bodybuilder. I tend to start with a skinny leg and pull everything off the skinny leg. So this isn't really any different than what I do with anybody else. You're going to have a secondary fat pad down here as well. And then you come in here and you'll get this. And there's actually a fat pad that'll go more or less in this direction. So it's going like this. And then here is the calf going back. And then here I'll have the foot in the back. Here, even the feet are going to be a little thicker. It all depends on how heavy we're talking about. Okay? The belly button will be lower. Okay? And you're going to get, you know, this has got weight. So what you're going to get is sort of a certain amount of bulging going on. So this is going to come forward. So here, see, this is turning away from the viewer. So that's rolling away from us, see? And then here, this may be coming in, see, like this, and rolling down like this, see? And then in here, this is thicker in the back. And in here, this too, it probably won't cross the center completely. But in here, see, this is going to go like this. See? By the way, I'm using standard Photoshop brushes today, so if anybody's... And this is going to get a little bit like that. Here, you're going to get a series of little shapes that go like this, see? And then in here, it's all going to be thicker, see? And this is what I was talking about before. This is going to go a little bit like this. You get this kind of thing that comes down like that out of here, and then it'll build up down here again. This will come in. And then in here, this is going to repeat itself, see? And we could get shadow patterns showing up too, which means, you know, I might get a drop shadow falling from one body part onto the other, which we get on everybody. This is not unique to this, but, you know, it's going to really push volumes sticking out. You might get a little drop shadow in here. You will get drop shadows up in here, see? So up in here, you will get them. And you're going to get a lot of dimpling in here, which is basically working around the joints. Okay? So you see what I'm talking about? Okay? Does that sort of help you with the question? Okay. All right. Let me see here. Yeah, 6 hours was perhaps excessive. I sat down yesterday morning and just started, and I looked up and it was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I didn't even know I was doing it. I was just sort of going through everybody's stuff. And so, you know, that's actually a lot to go through. So I'm going to try to limit the time a little bit, not so much to give less time to people, but so you don't have to dig through so much stuff to get, you know, everything in there. So, all right. I think, so what do I want you to do for homework? I want you to work on legs, particularly the body and the upper leg. So I'm going to come over here, come back in here. And so what I mean is find these poses. And by the way, where is that? That is graphitstudio.com. So I'm going to come in here and write that down so you have it. These are all from graphitstudio.com. And it's really, really good. So I'm just, you know, I want you to be able to get really good poses. Also, one thing I was saying on the crit is that what is the problem? Is I like that you can do poses that models can't actually hold, okay? So he's doing poses that are fairly standard here, but there are also these great sort of leaping poses
Will?
Oh, you can't. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So here, these are fairly standard poses, but you can also get really good leaping poses and things like that. So all this is available at Graphit. It's probably the best resource I've found yet for this stuff. And also, you do buy them, but it's only $12 and you get, 700 photos. It's like, it's just over the top. So it's my kind of place. All right. So what I want you to do is I want you to draw the torso kind of like this, just like you would, see, kind of like him. But I want you to focus your attention once you've got this torso in, see? I want you to focus your attention on the legs, okay? That's what I want you to do. So you're gonna come in here like this, and you'll come in and you'll say, this is going here, this is going here. I'm sort of making it simpler. Here is one way of drawing the knee, and in a handout I've given you, you're gonna see a number of ways of drawing the knee. So just experiment with that. Remember, those handouts basically augment everything I'm teaching in class, because even if I had 3 hours in class or 4 hours, we wouldn't have enough time. So then I come in here, see, put this in, and I want you, we talked about knees, we talked about feet, we talked about, the leg. This is what we talked about, so this is what I want you to practice, okay? And then come in here like this, see, get that on the outside, end this in here a little bit, bring it in, vastus medialis, sartorius, gracilis, lateralis, and then, if I do this, that's pretty good, but if I do that, it's going to have more dimension. It attracts too much attention to itself if I do that. So I'm going to take that out. And in fact, I'm going to minimize that even a little more. And then here, this, we go like this. There's the navel, see? And then above the navel, we're going to squeeze in a little bit of his six-pack right in there. In here is another piece of it, and here is another piece of it. And then down here is his lower abdominis, which is in here. The external oblique is coming in here, and this is stretching out, okay? So this is really what I want you to do, okay? And I want you to do the simple shape construction for the rest of the figure. So do this, see? And then because I want you to get this stuff happening too, see? And then here's his deltoid. By the way, the deltoid just rolls in there the way, anything would roll over a form, right? What's the other arm doing? I can't even tell. I'm not even looking at him, to tell you the truth. I'm just kind of in here. I could bring this down. And then like this, see? Now, and then right here, see? So when we're doing these arms, keep in mind that that can be the simple side. This will come in like this. And what you have to get is this. If you get this, you have this. And if you have that, I can draw the hand from any position, okay? Okay, and that's absolutely critical. And if I do this, I can start putting the deltoid on there and the tricep, okay? Elbows, we can build on top of that. But, this is just too handy. Look. You do not have to figure this out. I promise you, when you get in there to figure it out, it's right exactly where it should be, right? It's the right size and it's in the right place. You just haven't drawn that part yet. That's all. You just haven't drawn it yet. If I bring the leg forward and I do this, the leg I do just a little different, see? I know that this is coming down in this direction, and then there is the front, see? And if I get this, then I can do this. And I can build that into my foot, you see? What I'm really teaching you is the simple way of starting, because frankly, finishing it is easy. You just plug everything in. Once these things are all the right shape or the right size, look, nothing to it, man. Look, see, it's just ding, ding. You just fill it in. That's all it is. It's filling it in. Now, men's arms tend to go to a straight position and they don't go any farther out. So they tend to go more like this. Okay. Women's arms actually bow out a little more flexible at the joints. And it's also one reason why women don't tend to have as much upper body strength. So things like sit-ups are a little harder for women, or not sit-ups, but push-ups and things, partly because the arm doesn't lock out. What happens is when men lift up, they can just lock out into a straight position and come back down again. So there's a point of rest. But again, women have more flexibility, okay? And just to remind you, when you're doing women, or if you're doing, say, a hip like this, I put one side, I pull out from the center first, like this, because that gives me the triangle. Triangles are the easiest shape to see, right? So I pull out from either side of the pubic bone first, and if I go like this, see, this comes in, but the bottom leg comes out. So this comes in like this, but the bottom angle comes out a little bit. So it doesn't come in and straight. It comes in and out a little bit like that, okay? And then here, see, those are the key points I need to be aware of. In here, then I come in and I'm just kind of Greeking in my knee here. This is simple. This here is the calf coming in. Here is the foot, see? All right? And so here, and then here, rear end, here, bicep of the leg, here, all right? And then right up in here, this is the rectus femoris, fascia, and then the sartorius is actually coming up in here like this. In here, if this is a woman, we're gonna say, see, like that. I'm putting most of the shape on the outside of the leg, so I'm just sort of doing this. And the reason I'm doing that is, you know, it's sort of a little bit of a pin-up pose. So it goes like this. And when you're designing characters, you know, some of your characters are going to be like this. So you want to, and then, okay, so high-heeled shoes or something. And then what I do is I come up in here. See, there's the fat pad on the inside, fascia, medius, maximus, rectus femoris passing over the top, calf on the outside. If she's at an angle like this, her center line is going to be over here, see? So she'll go like this. And then right in here is the side of her hip, and right in here is where the external oblique is coming in. Here is the stomach, which emulates the shape of the outside of the body. So the stomach tends to emulate the shape, and there's a logical reason for that. And then we just kind of come up in here. So, okay? So pubic fat pad, that kind of stuff, just to kind of, you know, keep you going. So here, basically, it's the double bump, right? And then this is, you know, simpler. So maybe complex, simple, complex, simple, simple, complex, you know. Here, simple. This is what high-heeled shoes are designed to do, is create simple and complex. And also, they restack a person. So, you know, basically they basically make you carry your body differently, and that's why they're popular. All right. Oh, from the back?
Well,
Yeah.
it's 11:07.
Okay. Just give me 2 seconds here. From the back. Here's the rear end. It's the woman going like this, right? This is that butterfly that I was talking about. See, it fits in here, and it's bigger on the bottom. This is the intergluteal cleft. Muscles are smaller on the top, and she's going to be a little bit more like this, see? Okay? With a man, men are built a little bit more like this. So this is bigger on the top. Great trochanter, and you're going to start see it looks definitely like a guy. Okay. Now sometimes when guys gain weight, they will put weight on right up here. So sometimes you'll see somebody that has a really huge top up there like that, and that's actually a little bit of weight sitting on top of the muscle. See? So there are differences, there are similarities, you know, all of that's coming on. All right. So, okay, everybody happy? Good class? Yeah? All right. As you've seen, the crits are a big part of it. I basically go over new material in the crits. I work, you know, it gets me to answer all kinds of questions. So it's not really a completely rigid class because I'll answer different questions depending on what kind of work I see. So let's have you do about 20 of these leg studies. And again, don't worry about coloring it in. I'm thinking really a little bit linearly. All right. And then I'm going to talk to you about coloring it in. Eventually, I'm going to talk to you about how to handle line quality. Okay. I'm going to talk to you about how to begin and end lines. And in fact, next week, if I don't bring it up during the crit, I think I already brought it up once, but if I don't bring it up, remind me and I'll talk to you about it next week. Because you don't want to just abruptly end or begin your lines. You're always fading lines out, double stroking at the end. You're doing things to soften the end. Remember, you only want me to notice the object that you're drawing. You don't really want me to notice the technique until I've come to appreciate the object. If I start noticing your line work too much, then what happens is your drawing kind of devolves into a series of lines, right? Controlling lines is a big thing. And you know, you guys will all get it, right? Line work, line drawing is great for digital painting too, because if you take a look at some of the people that I recommended to you, you're going to notice a lot of them are linear artists. And when it comes to rendering or lighting things, they basically put the drawing on the top layer and they do all their lighting and rendering underneath it, right? So the line drawing sets up the painting, and then the painting is done underneath the line drawing. And maybe the line drawing disappears entirely. And, you know, I'll start showing you some of these people a little bit later on, and you'll see that they've developed techniques where I can hand in the line drawing if I don't have much time. If I have a little more time, I can throw a few tones. If I have a little more time, I can render it more in tone. And if I have plenty of time, I can do the whole thing and paint it out in color. So it's one technique that they're using, and that technique can be stopped at multiple points. And every one of those points is valuable for presentation purposes. So they can do something super fast, medium fast. I got a little time, I got a lot of time, right? But it's the same technique. They're not developing a new technique. They just have a technique that can be taken farther and farther and farther and farther and farther. And I'll show you how they do it. All right? Anybody have any final questions?
How long do they need to spend a leg to draw? 5 minutes? 10 minutes?
Oh, how long?
Yeah.
You know, I'd say, you know, 5 to 10 minutes. 5 to 10 minutes. Let's make it 10 minutes because you're slowing down and trying to place things. And do as many as you can. I say 20, you know, do as many as you can. I'm used to teaching at Art Center, and Art Center I'd say, and I want 50 of these by next week, right? Knowing that I've ruined their lives in the short term for the purpose of making them successful later on, right? The 300 head assignment I used to give, that they had 7 weeks to do that in, but they also had homework assignment every week. So that was on top of the homework assignment. So, but that's the culture of the school, which is basically pile it on, you know, when they crack, maybe you lighten up a little bit, right? So it's a very, very good school. It's not always a pleasant place to be, but it's a very, very good school. All right, everybody good? All right, well, thank you very much, everybody, and have a good week. This will show up, this lecture today will show up tomorrow, and also today's page will show up tomorrow as well. Okay? All right, thank you. Talk to you guys soon. Take care.
Thanks.